What is up, Rangers fans? This is Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James, and this is all your latest matchday news, guys. We're building up, obviously, to tonight's game as Rangers take on Club Brugge in the final qualifying round before the Champions League phase. Rangers hoping, obviously, to get through these next two legs unscathed and obviously take their place in the league phase of the Champions League and all the riches that would entail. Approximately £40 million straight off just for getting into the league phase. That's without, obviously, TV money, gate money, performance bonuses, etc., etc. You know, I think as much as people say, oh, we love a Rangers Thursday night, the fact that the difference is almost double what getting into the league phase as to winning the Europa League is, I think, is just astronomical and shows the importance of getting into this Champions League phase. And no matter what you think the results may or may not be, which none of us know, because it depends very much who Rangers would play if they qualify for the league phase, I think. You know, if we were to be lucky like that lot across the city were last year and get the likes of Slovan Bratislava, for example, and Young Boys of Bern, you know, there's a good chance of obviously getting some victories in there. Look, I'm not saying we're going to win the Champions League. Of course we're not going to win the Champions League because realistically there's only probably, 4, 5, 6 teams that can win the Champions League. You know, Arsenal, maybe. You know what they're like. Manchester City, Liverpool, obviously big candidates from England. You've got obviously the likes of Barcelona and Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, the reigning obviously European champions, Bayern Munich. Realistically, they're the only teams that can win the Champions League, and everyone else is just playing for the money. And, you know, realistically, that's where we need to be. Otherwise, we fall even further behind financially behind Celtic. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to play in the Europa League this season. I'm genuinely just think it's a waste of time. It's a genuine waste of time. You know, Rangers Thursday nights for me, now boring. We need to be a Tuesday or Wednesday night in the Champions League. It's about the money. It's got to be about the money. And this argument about, oh, it's our level, the Europa League, as Chris Boyd said, give me peace. Give me peace. It's just pish. It's utter rubbish. We need to play Champions League football, and it's got to be for the money. That has to be the focus of Europe. It's what it has to be. Now, obviously, one person who is obviously massively behind the Rangers revolution is Vice Chairman Parag Marathe. Now, Parag Marathe obviously is a man who holds a very unique position in the fact that he is chairman of Leeds United. He is vice chairman of Rangers, and he is also president or vice president of football operations at the San Francisco 49ers. So this is a guy who holds a large number of responsibilities, large numbers of positivities. Now, obviously, he was over the moon after yesterday's result. Leeds winning 1-0 in their Premier League opener against Everton. Got to say, pleased to see Leeds win. Good on you, Leeds. Well done. Always good to see Everton lose as well. That's always a positive. So, yeah, well done to Leeds for that. I'm sure Parag will be over the moon with that. Now, Parag Marathe has kind of been talking about the whole position of himself as in his role, and also the fact that, you know, as a person, what he wants to see. And he's also been teasing a little bit, kind of directly and indirectly with Rangers, as to what the end of this transfer window could hold. Now, I think we're all in a position where we know that changes need to be made still, that this rebuild still needs to ongo. You know, this is not a finished article. It is a team very much in transition. It is a team very much in flux. It is a team building, hopefully, towards a very glorious future. Now, we can have all the arguments we want over whether Russell Martin is the right man for the job, and that this is not the video for that. But, you know, we are in a position where we do need to further strengthen the squad. Now, obviously, the other this young man here, Jayden Meghoma, the left back. Obviously, he's not eligible at this moment to play in the Champions League qualifiers. However, he will be obviously eligible to play, hopefully, in the Champions League phase once we hopefully qualify for that. So, you know, the signs are clearly there that Rangers are still looking to dip into the transfer market. Rangers are still looking to add to this squad. Now, I think we all can kind of think and talk about where needs to be looked at. You know, I still think we need a right back. Max Aarons has struggled. James Tavernier is 3 seasons past his sell-by date and not fit to play pub football for me. You've got a situation where, as well, I think we need a winger. We need a further winger, I think, to add onto this squad. We also need a striker. Desperately, that's got to be the biggest priority for me, is getting a striker in. Obviously, with the injury to Cyril Dessers, whether it's as bad as we first thought or not as bad as we first thought, whatever. It is something we do need to add. Danilo has struggled massively since coming back from injury. Maybe all those injuries have taken an effect on him. I don't know. Obviously, I don't see him train. Hamza Rigaman, obviously, is back, but I think, at this moment in time, Hamza's head is perhaps not fully in the game. He's returning from injury, first of all, so getting his match sharpness is going to be an issue. But also, I think there is the element, to me, somewhat of the fact that he is, still had all that alleged interest. And yes, Russell Martin did say there's been no official bid for him, but I still think there has been interest. I think he still has been contacted by other clubs, and I think there is some degree of head turning there. And until the window closes, there's always going to be that distraction. So, a striker is a desperate need, I believe, going into the end of this window. I think a centre-back is still a big need. Obviously, the Nobel Mendy deal is very much in flux, given the medical issues that have supposedly been found around him. Still ongoing negotiations and discussions over that one. So there is still lots of areas I feel need strengthening in this team. And Parag Marathe has been discussing that very much when he was speaking to Sky Sports. And he teased a little bit of, he said there'll be plenty of activity in the closing days of the transfer window. Now, it was perhaps a little bit more in reference to Leeds United to some degree. But it's not so subtle indication that things are set to change at Rangers as well. And I think he was very much talking about both clubs in that assertion that things will need to be added to at both clubs going forward. Obviously Parag Marathe is the vice chairman, but he is a man who is obviously backed by all that money from the 49ers enterprises, from Jed York and obviously from Andrew Kavanagh as well. He said obviously that there is obviously a lot to come still in this transfer transfer window, and certainly everything that the Niners have done during their time running the club appears to indicate they will continue to bring in players. They will continue to back the director of football or the sporting director or the technical director, whatever you want to call Kevin Thelwell, and obviously indirectly therefore manager Russell Martin as well. So like I said, Sky are saying that there's plenty to be expected from both Rangers and Leeds United going in towards the end of the window. This is what Parag had to say. He said, "History shows there's always a lot of activity in the last few weeks of a transfer window. So in the last few days of the window, we'll exercise every day that we can. I can't speak for the other American owners. I can only speak for myself. I've been in most sports now for 3 decades. I love winning. I hate to lose. And that's what drives me. It matters to me. There's no hours in a day or a week or a year that limit me. It's a win or go home. And I just want to do everything I can to get these clubs to be as good as possible." So, it is very much a guy who, and like I said, he was talking about Leeds as well as obviously I think indirectly about Rangers as well. That this is a guy who is driven by winning. This is a guy who is driven by being the best. This is a guy who isn't driven by a 9-to-5 philosophy on doing business. This is a guy who is driven by a 24/7 kind of business mentality. As he said, there's no days, there's no hours and minutes, there's none of that situation. This is a guy who quite clearly will work round the clock to deliver the very best. And I mean, it is very encouraging. And look, yes, it's words. I understand that. Words are great. And, you can say anything. You can say anything. And sometimes words hurt, sometimes words, please. And these words, I think, are designed to please. Now, look, at the end of the day, Marathe, I think he's clear in what he wants. He's clear in his vision. And, he's been clear since day one, in what he is desiring from this football club and what he wants from this football club. So, at the end of the day, you've got to look at it in terms of, this is a guy who is clearly driven, clearly wants to do better, clearly wants to develop these teams even further. And I think, a lot will depend on what happens over the next sort of week and a bit in terms of where the club goes, in terms of the future, because transfer money is got to be incoming, and obviously if you're in the Champions League, there's a lot more money incoming. We've seen down south, and I know they have incredible TV deals down there, but we've seen down south that Champions League money has certainly helped fund and ward off PSR to those big clubs, and it's quite clear that transfer money can be added to, and that transfer money can therefore be increased going into the budget and going into the squad if we qualify for the Champions League. So it was really, really good what obviously he had to say in this little interview that he gave to Sky Sports, and like I said, very encouraging too, the words of Parag Marathe. Now, obviously, to the game tonight, obviously, is a massive one, huge. Rangers do have to obviously take something from this game to go to Bruges or Brugge, which is a very difficult ground to go to have any start. I saw last season Brugge play exceptionally well in the Champions League. I think they beat Aston Villa at home, and it shows, that it's certainly not an easy place to go, and we certainly saw it in that game that they played at Ibrox in that pre-season friendly, what a good side they actually are. And it was only at half-time, once they took a lot of their first stringers off, that they that fell away and Rangers came back into the game. So it's quite clear they will bring a very, huge intensity, and obviously will really be a team to be reckoned with tonight. Russell Martin spoke about the game obviously today, yesterday in his presser. He talked about the fact that it was a massive game, and not massive, not just for the players, but for the staff, for the club, for the fans, and for everyone. I think he's right. It is a huge, huge game. I mean, this is like a £40 million game. This is a game that, if you win, you stand on the verge of riches. If you lose, you go down to the second competition and to feed off the scraps from the Champions League's table. It was interesting what he said about, the fact that he talked about Rangers needing to enjoy the game and enjoy playing. The players enjoy playing for the club, and enjoy winning and have a focus on that winning. All very fine words, as always, from Russell Martin. Really is. He talked about, obviously, injuries. He said that Teases is the only concern going into the game. He has been responding to treatment very well, so if it's not tomorrow, he will be back by the next weekend or next week. So it stands a chance that the injury to Teases is not as serious as first thought, and he will be back sooner rather than later, which to some people is good news. To others, it's bad news. It is massive, and we do need a huge European night. We need that massive Rangers effect. If we're going to obviously get a couple of goals to the good, 2-3 goals to the good, going into the game against Bruges tonight. Look, I'm not going to pretend to you this is going to be an easy game or a walkover. It's going to be an arm wrestle. It's going to be a hard job, and Rangers will not only have to get those goals, they'll always have to try and keep it tight at the back, something that they have massively failed to do in recent weeks. So, I do worry about us at the back. I genuinely do. I think, in terms of the team for tonight's game, I think you'll see probably Tav at right back, unfortunately. Giga, maybe Suter, although Giga might be suspended. So, look, I think, whatever. It's going to be an exceptionally tough ask for Rangers tonight, It really genuinely is, going into this game. And look, I just hope that they go out there and that they show some of those European style performances. Now, look, we know, and you and I know, that the Rangers can just somehow, from nowhere, pull it out when it comes to Europe. And we don't know why. And we all sit there and go, where the hell was this? Where the hell was this? Against Motherwell, against Alloa, against St Mirren, against Living, again, whenever we play domestically, we often don't see that, that performance, that level of performance that we see in Europe. So we do need to see that quality of performance tonight. We do need to see that quality of play that we've seen in European games. Predicted lineup, like I said, for tonight, I think he'll go with Butler in goal, obviously, rather than Liam Kelly. I think he'll go, unfortunately, with Tav at right back. Giga, Suter, Aarons will play left back, which I think is a mistake. He's not a left back. We've seen that, but who else is there? Unless you could, because there's no one else in the squad that can play now because of the fact that obviously Fraser's gone, Hiefte's gone. It's done. I think Dio and Raskan may start as the kind of 6 and the 8. And Cameron, I think, will start in the 10 role tonight. I mean, Lyle Cameron has been fantastic. I love Lyle Cameron. Absolutely love the guy's energy, the way he plays the game. He's been fantastic. I think the front three will be Ant-Man, Gassama, probably with Danilo, because there is no one else. So that's my predictions. That's my prediction. Whether it'll be enough, who knows? I genuinely don't know. I genuinely don't know. Because it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be an exceptionally tough game tonight. And Bruges are an exceptionally good side. Prediction: Heart says 2-0 Rangers. Head says 1-1. I don't like predicting that, but I'm just trying to think kind of, like I said. But I don't know, because it depends what team turns up. And that's the beauty of it. What Rangers turn up? Is it the Rangers we've seen over the last couple of weeks that have struggled and been poor? Or is it going to be the Rangers of those European nights? Who knows? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation, guys. As always, on the way out, if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And we'll catch you on the next one.